Sarah Gitenstein. I'm the director of Right to Be Forgotten.
And I'm Sharyn Rothstein. I'm the playwright of Right to Be Forgotten.
Sharyn, where did the idea for this play come from?
So in around 2013, 2014, I started reading a lot about the right to be forgotten as a legal framework coming out of the European Union. And I was immediately captured by the language of it. This idea that we would fight for a right to be forgotten, to be removed from the internet, was just really evocative to me. And I started to think about, every generation that has come of age over the past 40 years has their lives completely broadcast online. And they don't have control over that. They don't have control over what lives or what dies. And it seemed to me then, and as I've rewritten this play and reworked this play over the many years, it's still the case that our laws are just way behind the technology on this. What drew you into the script and the world of the play?
Just like you, this topic is very compelling to me. I think it's in the age of the internet and the quickness with which it's moving, it's scary, and policing it is so difficult. And while it is a very helpful resource, it's also a very scary one. And so while that is also extremely timely and relevant to right now, especially as a parent and watching other parents trying to navigate this conversation with their kids. Also, the world of the play is so nuanced and complex and exciting, and the way you write is really in-depth and real, but also funny and layered, and I was just really compelled by that. What was the most challenging part of writing this play?
I wanted every single character in this play to be as complicated as possible. To me, this play is all about gray areas, and it's it would be very easy if this were a play where your main character did some terrible, terrible thing that is absolutely irredeemable, and you just go, no, that guy should never get his past erased from the internet.
Right.
Likewise, it would be really easy if he was a saint, and it was all just a giant misunderstanding.
Right.
And of course he should have that erased. So I needed to find that gray area where what the main character, Daryl, did, makes you think maybe he should have this right to be forgotten, maybe he shouldn't.
Right.
And so I set for myself the challenge of giving every single character that level of complexity, ambiguity, so that my hope is that everyone who comes to see this play leaves with a different point of view on the characters and the issue, and that we spark some conversation around what's a really, really complicated topic. What makes you think this show will stand out in Chicago?
Chicagoans and Chicago theater artists are very much about the complexity of an idea and the complexity of character, and they know a good play when they see it. So that's hopefully what they will see.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a really fascinating topic in America in general right now, particularly as we talk about fake news and false truths and and cancel culture, and which is something that's very prevalent everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And I think this show touches on that very eloquently. In your words, what is the play about thematically?
I think that this is a play at its core about forgiveness. And it's about memory and the frailty of memory. And it is about how technology intersects with those things. And the show, as you alluded to, also has a sense of humor, because I think we're dealing with very human issues and very human failings, and everyone in my life deals with that through humor. I don't know people who don't. So, it's a little bit about how forgiveness and memory and humor are so human. And then we've got the internet and we've got technology, which can feel so cold and not human. And it's about that, what happens when those things are on a collision course with each other. How will the technical aspects affect the show and story?
We've actually been working a lot on this in terms of the way you've written projections into the transitions, and to be very clear, I don't know about the technology of projections very much, but we have two really fabulous projection artists working with us. The way that they are working with where we put the projections and then how they're used within each scene and then the feeling with which they progress as the show progresses, I think is really helpful in terms of that idea of how the internet can make you feel. And I've been using this analogy a lot, but do you know how sometimes you can be on your computer all day or you're in like a rabbit hole on the computer, and then if you just shut it off and you just step outside, even if you're in a parking lot and you're like, this like breath of fresh air. And it's like, how can we create that feeling through the technology of the projections and the way the scenic design works? What do you think is the most embarrassing thing of you on the internet?
Oh, jeez. Oh, probably some terrible review somewhere. I don't know. I wrote a play. Actually, this is probably it. I wrote a play about my family, and one of the reviewers, but fictionalized, but one of the reviewers wrote like, I don't know if this play is based on the playwright's family, but I hope for her sake it's not.
There is this, like, I did used to make these really silly videos with my like childhood friends post-college, and there's one of me murdering a sandwich. And it's like the sandwich bleeds and like all now I'm like really worried people might look that up because it's not great. But that would be probably the most, I mean, like, and also like old Facebook statuses. But yeah, again, like I'm my internet presence pre like 2006 or 7 is not very prevalent.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, I'm constantly telling my kids, like, just remember, everything you put online can live there forever.
It's such a hard concept.
Yes. Why is this play so important? That's a big word. What is the urgency?
I mean, I think this topic is really important, and I think it's continuing to be important. I think that the internet is developing and moving at a rate that is faster than we're able to police and understand and keep up with legally. And it's so hard to talk about because it's such a complex, huge, wide, massive thing. And I think that this play is relevant now, and I think it's going to be relevant in 10 years. Like while the laws will change and the way we talk about it will change, I just think it's exceptionally important, especially as these new generations and us as like parents and older generations are trying to help younger generations understand what forever means and what a permanent memory is, that we understand what screen time is and what the internet is and posting and social media. Like we barely have any real grasp of the effects of this, the long-term effects of any of this, whether it be the ability to erase your name, let alone the ability to be on social media at such a young age.
We need to make some decisions as a culture. We need to decide who gets to make the rules about what stays on the internet. Do we want that to be these companies?
Right.
Ooh, that feels really dangerous to me. Do we want it to be government? I don't know.
Yeah.
That feels dangerous too. But as you were saying, until we really start having dialogue about it and digging into it, we're never going to be able to protect our kids from their mistakes, the mistakes of others, and we're never going to be able to fully integrate kind of a responsible version of the internet with our lives. It's going to continue to be this kind of all-powerful force.
I know, but it's so hard too, because like we get into this topic of censorship and like what does that mean and how do we decide who can say what when and what can be erased, and it's just so complicated.
It is so complicated. That's why I feel like the core of this play is a bit of a plea for us to reconnect in real life, IRL. Because as many faults as we all have, that to me feels like the only way we can move forward. And the more we silo ourselves off into our little tech bubbles, the less real we become to each other. And I think that's really dangerous.
Yeah. How do you hope audience members will feel when they leave this show?
I hope that audience members leave feeling incredibly entertained, intellectually stimulated. I hope they leave in deep discussion with whoever they came to see this show with, or some random stranger they met at the theater. hopefully this leads to conversation about topics that maybe they hadn't really thought about before as deeply. But also, I hope that they leave with, if not sympathy for all of these characters, at least feelings about all of these characters. And, you know, I tried really hard in this play not to make you feel any which way about any given character, right? Like to really show humans in all of their complexity. So for me, you know, I think the audience, I hope they leave in discussion. I hope they leave having laughed a little bit throughout this play. And I hope that it is memorable for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's also just a sign of a good show. Like when people are, you know, if they love it or hate it. The last thing I want is for someone to be lukewarm. Like, you know, he wasn't going to talk about it. Like if they're engaging in conversation, that's a sign of like stimulation and good work, good art. Yeah. I think this show is relatable to everyone because there's no way to function in this world without the internet. And I think it's important to engage in conversations about that. And this show helps spark that conversation.
Yeah. I'll be even more shameless. It's a smart show. If you're a smart person,
there you go.
You should come see this show. And hopefully you will be rewarded by, you know, leaving feeling maybe even a little bit smarter, but certainly feeling like you have spent an hour and a half in deep communion with interesting characters dealing with an incredibly topical issue.
Yes. Ditto.